Hello everyone, I'm Jacob Kaufman, I'm the nerd on the street, and today we are setting this time before the meeting actually starts. It tells me a password's required. If I just enter in random text here, it doesn't work. It says incorrect username or password. So you need to log in with your account on the Jitsi server before you can start a conference now, which is great. Now there's no sign up link here, so how do you make an account on the Jitsi server? Well, right now the way that you do that is we open up our terminal again and we run prosodictl register. Now, if you have an existing XMPP chat solution set up, you might already have a web interface or another way for these accounts to get created. But if you're just setting up a standalone Jitsi server, this is the easiest way to do it, is just create your accounts on the command line. So we're going to register an account with a username, Jacob, and then we're going to put a space and then the host that we're registering it on, which is jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com. And then we'll make my password here password. We'll run that. Now, if I come back to my test room here and I try and log in, I can either type Jacob or I can type Jacob at jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com since that's the host that we registered on. I type my password in here, and that time it worked. It authenticated successfully, and I am in my new test room. Now, not everyone's going to be video conferencing from their computers. I certainly would. If I was going to join a video conference for pretty much anything, I would use a computer. And this is super easy because it's in a web browser. You don't need to install anything because it runs over WebRTC, which is really awesome. However, some people are going to want to join from their phones. A lot of casual users are going to want to join from their phones. And so I'm going to start recording here on my Android phone, and I'm going to show you what the process looks like to join one of these chats. So I'm going to open up the Jitsi Meet app that I've already downloaded from Google Play. It is free. You can just go download it. And it's going to ask me to enter a room name. Now, by default, the Jitsi Meet app is going to be joining the meet.jit.c public server. In order to change it to join my private server, I need to open up my settings on the left side, go to the settings section here, and under server URL, I'm going to enter in https://jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com. So once that's been entered in, I'll go back. I'm going to enter in the name of my room, which was test 2 here. And I'll click create/join. Now, I'll allow my audio and camera here for the app. And because we just set up authentication, as you can see, now, by default, everybody needs to sign in. Before you can create a conference or before you can join a conference, you need to sign in with an XMPP account that's been registered on the server. So I can type in Jacob at... Actually, I'll just stick with Jacob to demonstrate that it works either way. And I'll type in my password here. I'll click OK. And we're connecting. And after a moment, it connects. And now I can see myself on the phone. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself on both of these so that the audio is not echoing. But as you can see, I can see my phone's camera. I can change the orientation to landscape there. So now it's like I'm, holding my phone and talking to somebody through my phone's camera. And then on my phone, I can see my webcam. And you can see it's kind of difficult to demonstrate. I'm doing this as one person. I'm going through all this work to set up a video conferencing server, but I don't actually have anybody to talk to. But that is working now. I'm going to hang up on the phone. And so right now, anybody who is going to join one of my conferences also needs to sign in with an account. So if I was just using this, say, for Nerd on the Street, a very small group, maybe less than 10 people who would be using this, I could go through and I could just run this prosodictl command to create an account for everyone, tell them all what their password is. However, if you're using this with family or friends who are not technical, you might not want to have to log in order to join a conference. Probably the most common configuration you're going to want is requiring a login to create a conference, but not requiring a login to join a conference. And we're only one step away from having that accomplished. So we can go ahead and minimize Jitsi again, open up our terminal. And in order to allow anonymous joining of conferences, all we need to do is nano into our prosody configuration file one more time. At the bottom of this file, we're going to add a new section. This is going to be a virtual host section for guest.jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com. And authentication is going to say anonymous. Encryption is not required for authentication because there is no password to encrypt. Now the server is running on Nginx, and Nginx doesn't technically have virtual hosts. That's an Apache concept. But right now we're in our prosody configuration, and this guest.jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com address is only used in configuration. We don't actually need this full domain name to resolve out. You can see up here we've got auth.jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com. I didn't add auth.jitsi to my DNS. I've only got Jitsi added in my DNS control panel. So these additional subdomains are only for configuration purposes, so we can save that file. We are also going to nano into the actual Jitsi meet configuration at Etsy Jitsi meet jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com-config.js. And right underneath this domain line at the top here, this tells us what our XMPP domain is. So for authentication, we're using jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com. Underneath that, we've got in our example config right here, anonymous domain, and that's the option we want to set. And we will set that to guest.jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com. So we'll save that. We will restart our 3 services one more time. So systemctl restart prosody, restart Jacofo, and we will restart Jitsi Video Bridge 2. And after restarting all of those, we will go through this process one more time here. In our web browser, we go to jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com. We're going to start a meeting. We'll just call this one group chat. After we start that meeting, it's going to ask me to authenticate. I am the host, so I'll click this button and enter in my username and password. So once again, we are requiring an account in order to start a conference because we don't want anybody to be able to use our server. So we'll hit enter, and that's going to work. Now we've got our conference. However, I don't want my family and friends to actually have to register accounts on my server on the command line. So once we're in here, I'm actually going to set a password in the bottom right. I'm going to click add password. The password's going to be easy to share password. All right, so now I can tell my friends to go and join jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com/group chat and to enter in the password easy to share password. We're going to come back to my phone here, and I'm going to go into my settings and my apps, and I'm just going to clear my data for the Jitsi Meet application so that we can demonstrate that you don't need to sign in. So the data has been cleared. I'm going to open up Jitsi Meet again. And so once again, I'll go to my settings, and somebody using this for the first time will have to type in my Jitsi Meet URL, which is jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com. And once that's typed in, I'll come back here. I'll enter in my room name, which is group chat. And when I go to join it this time we won't be asked to enter in a username and password. This time it's just a password, so that's our easy to share password. And I'll click OK. And in a couple of seconds, I have now joined the meeting again. All right, so I know this was probably a lot to process. I basically showed you 3 different configurations for Jitsi. The recording's at about 45 minutes right now, but it doesn't actually take that long to set things up how you want. If you want a public server, you can just do the first half of the video, and then you've got a public Jitsi server, so you don't have to use Zoom. If you want to secure your server so that only registered users can start conferences, and then you want to go all the way and make it easy for more people to join, it's just a few more lines of configuration like I just showed you. And at this point, I could even come here and I can remove the password from this room. Let's say I didn't want somebody to have to enter a password at all. With our final configuration, I can remove the password and I can just send out the link, jitsi.nerdonthestreet.com/group chat. And now that that password has been cleared, if I come into my settings one more time, I'm going to clear my Jitsi Meet storage again so that we know that that password isn't saved. I can come into Jitsi Meet. It's got default settings again. Now I can enter in my room name, group chat, and when I go to enter in there, I'll allow my permissions on my Android device, and I did not have to enter a password that time. It just started. So if you're stuck inside because of the coronavirus pandemic, maybe you've got more free time than usual because you don't have to commute to work right now. Instead of using a proprietary solution like Zoom, where you're giving a company access to the entirety of your video chat, you're using a non-standard encryption scheme that is not even end-to-end and not having control over where your data is going physically. Instead of doing that, I would highly recommend take a few minutes, set up your own Jitsi Meet server, or, gather with your friends and decide who's going to to set up the Jitsi Meet server and set one up and use that instead because it's open source, it's free. You'll get a little bit of experience setting the server up. And now you can chat with people on your own server where you control 100% of the data. So I hope this was helpful to somebody out there. If you have any questions while setting this up, feel free to ask at the Nerd on the Street forums at nerdonthestreet.com. But aside from that, that's all I had to show you this weekend. So I'm Jacob Kaufman, I'm the Nerd on the Street, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.